Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of Reviewing Comics with me, your host, Alexander Turbin. This week we're going to be going over Rough Raiders from Blue Comet Comics, a 1988 power comic. We'll look at it and you decide. But before we get into that, I'd like to show you some of my own work. This is Random Access, and it's a 12-page full-size, full-color comic that you can get through Patreon. Just go to patreon.com/Alexander Turbin, and you can get like I said, 12 pages, full-size, full-color for just $3 a month. You get the comic plus a sticker. This is the newest one, Random Access number 18, with a cover by Charles Delgado. I hope I got his name right. But you could also check these out at my website, alexanderturbin.com. And this has all the random accesses, and it has all of the Mutandis and all of my other artwork that I have ever produced. Well, maybe not all of it, but most of it. So let's get into Rough Raiders and stop with the self-promotion. I will never stop self-promoting. But anyway, so this is I think it's a power comic. It's got a lot of accomplishment, as Evan would say. It's like I said, it's from 1988, and it's written and produced and art and everything by a bunch of different people. It's kind of weird. Like I said, it's the artwork is pretty accomplished. So it's a power comic that you wouldn't really think is a power comic. I mean, it almost looks like a regular publisher. I guess they produced some Popeye and some other stuff before that. But they did Rough Raiders with Tim Vigil and Ben Dunn and Steve Hughes. I don't know if this is a different comic than this, because this is Rough Raiders number 1. But I think there was maybe a Rough Raiders or something else before this, so maybe this is a volume 2. But it doesn't really say that. So this is kind of an odd little thing, because it's a superhero team, the Rough Raiders, but it's also an anthology. There's 3 or 4 different stories here, so it's which is really kind of a great idea. And I think I might try to do the same thing, get some artists together and just work as an anthology, but all the anthologies will be of the same superhero group. So I think that might be like an interesting thing, kind of like a Thieves World, only even more specific than a locale or something like that, but also just characters, the same superhero group, just having different artists and writers and stuff doing the same comic. I think that would be very interesting. So anybody out there who's doing art and stuff, if you would like to be in an anthology that's superhero based, let me know. The first story is by Guy B. Kadich, with layout pencils by Kevin Call, and finishes ink dialogue by C.A. Storman. C.A. Storman seems to be the main theme out of all of these little anthology stories. I think he's kind of like an overall producer, and he'll also go in and do inks, do washes. I know in the last story he does the washes for this, which is actually pretty good. He's got some limitations, but I think that overall he does a pretty good job on all of this different stuff. I don't know how many issues this ran, if it ran more than just one issue or whatever. Like a lot of these were one-offs, but I kind of think that this went into more issues. But anyway, you have the credits up here, but then you also have them down here. Letters by C.A. Storman, and it's the Aragon language. So let's get into the story, and then we'll talk about the art and stuff. I'll try to do all 3 stories. But I'm going to just kind of skim some of them, because they're kind of a little bit confusing in a lot of places, and I just couldn't really understand a lot of what was going on. So in this first story, Atomic Oracle, the creation of the Atomic Oracle. So I think a lot of these is the backstory of all of the Rough Raiders. Like this is the Oracle, the Atomic Oracle, which is like a robot. So there's the scientists, and you have some aliens trying to bust into their science, whatever their laboratory, and they're putting the last finishing touches on this giant mechanical warmonger monster alien robot, I guess is what you'd call him. So they finish him, they put on the finishing touches, they blast through, and the robot says, "Get out of here, and I will protect you and save you." But these guys, the bad guys, have a tank and a bunch of armored warriors, and also these mechanical panthers, which is really cool. This book really has a lot of cool ideas and a lot of cool things going for it, and the art is really not that bad. So I mean, it has a lot going for it, but you got the evil overlord who says he's the master of the universe, or the emperor of the universe, or whatever. Which, how could you be emperor of infinity? But anyway, he says, "Go get them, Panthers and mechanical men." And excuse me, the robot fights them off as best he can, but there's just too many of them, and he finally takes one last blast at the emperor of the universe, and he can't get through his shield because he has some kind of shield. And then they just kind of overwhelm him, and they're gonna kill him. But then they decide they're not going to kill him. They're going to disassemble him and kind of figure out what he is and make more of them. But then he's like, "Oh, you can't do that." And then he fires back, and he starts to win. And then I guess this guy, who is a wizard, and has these two floating balls, okay, puts the bad guy and the good guy into some sort of stunning force field or something like that. And then, so the wizard is like, "We will disassemble him and put him in different parts so we can figure out what's going on." The Emperor of the Universe doesn't like it. Inside the robot is, I think, some sort of electromagnetic AI, or some sort of AI that can move around outside of his body. So then he takes off and leaves the robot's body for himself, and they're just going to try to figure out what he is and replicate him and make him into an army of robots. So that's basically the beginning of the origin story for him. This is the it's kind of weird because it jumps back and forth. Like I said, the art is very accomplished. I mean, you can tell that there's some really great stuff going on. But I think one of the key factors of a power comic is the fact that if you make a mistake in a power comic, you don't fix it. Maybe you don't realize it until years later. I know that's happened in my work. But I don't know if you feel rushed or you think it's good enough. I think maybe power comics artists just think it's good enough at certain times, and really you shouldn't think that way. You should maybe redo it. If you had an editor, you would redo it. I don't know, something like that. Like for a regular artist, I think, or non-power comic artist, that's a good one. He'll go through his panels, and they'll all either be really good or as perfect as you can get them. A power comics artist will have these panels, and one of them might be off. Who knows? A little bit off. Maybe it's some sort of pose or facial expression, or who knows what it is. But I think the power comics guy is just like, let's move on to the next thing. Anyway, that's been my experience. So the second story is I think she's called Blue Spirit or something. This is a very short story, and it's written by Story and Letters by C.A. Storman. I told you he was the big part in all of these, and Stephen Hughes, who's I've heard of Stephen Hughes before. I think maybe he's related to Adam Hughes. Who knows? But anyway, I think this is Blue Spirit or something like that, and no, it's basically just her. They were in Life Brigade #2. So there was a Life Brigade #1 and a #2, and they meet the Rough Riders, I guess, and they then in this issue they decide to they're on an alien planet, I guess, and she just talks about how they are learning how to survive on the alien planet and learning how to work together and be together and also living together and just doing everything they can. They're also fighting some sort of evil creatures or something like that. I cannot, for the life of me, figure out what is going on here. But she thinks that they should disband the Life Brigade and just become one team called the Rough Riders. And the leader of the Life Brigade, she brings this idea to him, and he's like, okay, let's do it. So then they all become one superhero group called the Rough Riders. And they're just like, their last decision is who's going to be the leader. So that's kind of cool. The next story is, I think it's the origin of this Blue Raven. I can't remember her name. I think it's Blue Raven. And it really, it's very convoluted, complicated, and very confusing. She's Native American. This is some sort of background or a flashback to she got attacked, I guess, and she's on death's door, and she's remembering how she was living with a Native American tribe, and she was born and she had some powers, but the Great Elk wanted to teach her how to use her powers, and she could like talk to animals and stuff, and she wanted to learn more, but the Great Elk, I guess it was the chief shaman, said he only had one more hunt left in him, and then he was going to die. So then the white men show up, and they're going to slaughter his clan or whatever, and he says he's going to stop them, but the white man kills him. They burn their village, but she gets away. I'm not entirely sure about that. I'm not entirely sure if the spirits save her or the Great Elk saves her or something. I don't know. But then she goes to out into the wilderness and survives, I guess. And she meets another guy. I think he might be the Great Elk. He's just a shaman. Maybe supposed to be a father figure like. But the Great Elk teaches her how to use her magic powers, because I guess she has magic powers, or superhero powers, something. And then she wanders into his cave or whatever one night, and she realizes that he's really a young man, and he's not old here. He's young here. So he's really old, but he turns young whenever anybody's around. And he then tells her that he met her mother years ago, and they had sex and produced her. And she was like, okay, now I really want you to teach me how to use magic. And he's like, okay, but remember, I still only have one hunt left in me. So he goes out and he's going on the hunt, but then the white men find him and attack him and kill him. And Blue Raven, I think is her name again, it goes crazy, and she's very upset, and she uses her magical powers to bring down the rain and kill all the white men. But she is then worn out from using all her powers. She faints. These nuns find her, and this goes through this whole montage of how she was raised in an orphanage. She grows up. She learns how to do certain things. She learns English. She is immortal. I don't know if she's immortal or what, but she goes through World War One and World War Two, and then she just learns how to use her magic. She has a kid, and she gets married, maybe. And then she just goes through this whole thing, and she realizes because it becomes modern day, or the 88 anyway, and she joins not the Rough Riders, but the Life Brigade, I guess, and they float, or no, yeah, no, it's not the Life Brigade. At some point, they take a spaceship and they go out into outer space. Not the Rough Riders, but I think it's Life Brigade, who later becomes Rough Riders. The timelines is very wonky. If anybody has this and has read other issues or previous issues, please let me know what's going on here. I'm really kind of pretty lost on this. But here's the pretty cool spaceship. I think it's the Rough Riders because it has Rough on it later on in another issue. So I think they're already the Rough Riders at this point when they fly off into space, which doesn't really jive with the continuity of what's going on. At some point she becomes one with the universe and very phoenixy, and then becomes old, and then she goes back to where she was with the Rough Riders, and I have no idea what goes on after that. This guy is actually the guy that kills her her chieftain, or not her chieftain, the Great Elk, the one that was her father. He's the one that kills her father. This guy is really this guy, I think. So it's a little convoluted. I don't really understand how things went because the story is a little off, I guess. Oh no, it's called The Revenge. So it's not the Rough Rider, it's a revenge that they flew off to. I guess they have some space adventures. This is the third story, and it's plot by Alex Laverde, script by Mike Sopp, artwork by David Trenzu, and editor letters by C.A. Storman. And basically, they are attacked by this Scorpion ship. They crash land on a planet, and the Scorpion men attack them, but they have their own internal conflicts, I guess. They capture one of the Rough Riders, apparently, or the Life Brigade. I don't know which one they are. So they capture him, and they're taking him to their leader. I'm not entirely sure. But then they start to have a fight, and then they're all just attacking each other with a prisoner in tow, and he just kind of smashes one of them and runs away and, well, walks away, I guess. Nope. He befriends the one Scorpion guy. I guess the Scorpion guy and him took care of the rest of them, and they become friends, and maybe he goes back and hangs out with the Rough Riders again. So let's get into the story and art. The story, pretty convoluted, pretty complex. I don't really understand a lot of it. This first story is complete, and I understood completely. The second story, I understood it. It wasn't confusing at all. But this third story really, it knocked me for a loop. I didn't really know what was going on. Some of that is to do with the lettering. But I mean, the writing, the plots are super simple and not complex. I mean, I sometimes I say it's complex, but it's never really complex. It's more convoluted and you can't understand what's going on from the scripting and from the plot and from the dialogue. Nobody has their own voice. Nobody. They're all pretty much talk the same. They have a little bit of snarkiness. It's like he read too much Stan Lee, but didn't know how to put the plot together so that it wasn't confusing. I guess the key word for this comic is confusing, which a lot of Power comics are confusing. Let's face it. But let's go through. Yeah, the writing. Like I said, it's confusing. The plots aren't very special. They're very run of the mill. They drag pretty much. The pacing is not very good. The pages. I mean, the stories. They're only 3 or 4 pages long, so you really have to say what you're saying in a succinct amount of time, and really kind of your pacing has to be really spot on if you're only doing 3 or 4 pages. You have to let the reader know exactly what's going on, and you can't confuse them. Or it just becomes a kind of a jumble and a mess, which really this is kind of what it is. They're aiming for a lot of cool stuff. Like he wants to do this flashback thing. He wants she's injured in some sort of fight or whatever, and you have the close up of her face and then her eye, and this is a flashback. That is kind of okay. It should have gone smaller to bigger to kind of go into the next panel or next page or whatever. But it really, like I said, I was very confused and I didn't know what was going on half the time. Most of it was because I didn't really understand the characters. I didn't know who the characters were, and he didn't give really a backstory at all. He just kind of maybe says their names once, and you're just supposed to figure some of the stuff out that you really just can't figure out. The art in all of them is really good. I would say that's probably the strongest part of the book. The cover especially is really good. I don't like the colors. The pink is really kind of offsetting, and just having a white background in this black thing, it's I understand it. I know what happened. They didn't format it correctly, which is really too bad. They could have just done without this whole black bar. But this white background it's not cover material. It's not good enough to be a cover with no background, I guess. Or I don't know. I can't say that. There's plenty of white backgrounds that are perfectly okay. And I don't know. I guess I'm not into the design of it, but the characters are very nicely drawn, very nicely colored, painted. Especially this one character, Blue Spirit, Blue Raven. I can't remember what her name is. It's an okay cover. I just don't really like the pink or the lack of a background, I guess. And they're all the characters all the same size pretty much. I guess I wish this one was way bigger and these were in the background, or something, give some sort of dynamic effect where you have a foreground, a middle ground, and a background. That would have made the cover more pleasing to me anyway. The artist for this is actually pretty good. None of the artists are bad narratively. I didn't have to go back and reread stuff, which was good because I was lost half the time anyway. So I didn't have to go back and reread anything. One thing that really sticks out though is the lettering. I really don't like this long, oblong lettering balloons. Maybe that's just me. I would much rather have an oval, regular word balloon kind of thing. I really don't like the oval and then straight word balloons. And then there's many times where he mixes the words together. They get too close with one word, or too far in another word, and it reads very, very difficultly. He squeezes a lot of stuff in. It's just, it's basic lettering mistakes that a lot of people make when they first make comics, I guess. And he's just trying to stick a lot of lettering into a short amount of space, which, you want to save all that space for the art. But if you've got a lot of exposition and you have a lot of lettering, then you have to put it in as much as you can. This is a great page right here. just showing the anatomy and the structure of the robot and these two characters. Again, I wish that this character was really bigger. This character was smaller. Foreground, middle ground, background. This artist, Stephen Hughes, excuse me, is really good. But again, it all runs together. There's no action panels that really do anything. I mean, and the panels are all pretty much the same size except for this first one, which I mean, you've got a medium-sized character, then a big size, and then everyone's small, which that's good. But then the next whole pages they're all basically the same size, and there's no variance. But then there's no narrative art in this whatsoever. There's no showing of time or space or anything of that what's going on. So I mean, the art is pretty good in all of them. So I don't really have anything to complain about that. The story is, like I said, probably the weakest part, just because it's simple and yet you can't really understand a lot of what's going on. So anyway, here's the Rough Raiders #1. If you guys like this kind of content, please consider subscribing if you're a new viewer. Can you hit the notification bell? I'd really appreciate that. And also maybe a thumbs up. And if anybody else has the Rough Raiders, please let me know what you think. And if you have any Life Brigades, and let everybody know what you guys think of that. So I'm gonna give this. I really was confused. I really didn't enjoy reading it. I don't want to go out and get any more Rough Raiders. There's a lot of these comics that I want to go get more. The Warlock Fives, for instance. I want to go out and get more of those. So that's why you get such a high grade. I'm going to give this a 5. I could probably give it less, but I like the cover, even though it doesn't have a lot of dynamic layout like I wish it did. But the artists are all pretty good. So that pretty much saves the comic, even though it is a power comic. I believe it's a power comic, and but it's on the edge of being a power comic. Like I believe that if they did 2 or 3 more issues, that it would go beyond the power comic scope. But that's just my own personal opinion. And if you guys think that this really is a power comic or not a power comic, let me know. So I'm giving it a 5, and thanks you guys for watching, and I will talk to you guys later. Thanks a lot.